welcome to Transparency. This is part 2. In part 1, we went through some testimony to the Natural Resource Commission. A lot of the feedback says we understood what was taking place with the law, but how or whom is affected by the lack of enforcing the law. What you're seeing is the charter boats in the Pere Marquette Bayou. Now those owners have been there since 1965 through the 70s, long before the municipal marina was even thought of, and long before it was ever built. The promises that were made to the charter boat owners was that the municipal marina, there was only one at the time in 1980, would not have charter boats. And we're going to hear from a meeting that took place on July 18th of 2013 that came about after years and years of complaining and issuing those complaints with representatives, senators, city managers, mayors in the city of Ludington, objecting to what was taking place with the charter boats, the fishing boats that were going into those marinas. Plural now, after the other one was put in the late 1990s. Ronald Olson came to Ludington in July to have a meeting. He brought with him Jason Fleming, who you'll hear during the transcript, that you'll see and you'll hear the audio. We hope you can follow along, because there's a lot of people at this meeting. The city manager of Ludington, the mayor of Ludington, the county drain commissioner, staff from the Department of Natural Resources, Jason Fleming, Paul Peterson, chief of the Parks and Recreation, like I said, Ron Olson will be there. Raymond Karboski, his wife Jessica Karboski. Other owners within the bayou were also present. So, as you can imagine, during discussion and questions, there's interruptions. So that's why we have a transcript and we have an audio. We sent the transcript down to Florida, completely independent. So you're going to see some errors in the transcript because there's interruptions. So we just want you to know it's going to start out with former Mayor John Henderson trying to kick off the meeting, and then Ron Olson will step in and try to frame it as he says. So let's kick it off with the July 18, 2013 meeting.
There was to talk about charter boats, and I'm not facilitating the whole meeting, but I'm going to get us to the next, so we can get started again, and then we'll try to keep it rolling here. But there was a question, some concerns about how the charter boats are being used, or the licensing of the charter boats, or granting permission to the charter boats in the city municipal marina, and that was part of the waterways, or going to be part of the waterways agenda. And we had asked to have some more time to put it, but then Senator Hansen and folks wanted to try to get us together to talk about that. So I don't know who wants to start. Rob, would you like to start?
Well, yeah. City of Ludington Mayor John Henderson makes a comment about that. It's a little bit confusing because he's talking about another meeting that took place earlier before this one. At that meeting was Jeff Hansen, senator for that area at that time, his chief of staff Peter Wills. On the phone was DNR Director Keith Creagh, a representative from U.S. Representative Bill Heisinger's office was there via the phone, and Ward Wallstrom, a Waterways Commissioner, was also on the phone, along with the DNR staff. Fleming, Peterson, and Olson. So to clear up, that meeting was about the bayou pollution and contamination issue and the responsibility of getting that dredged out for the marina boat owners and other owners within the bayou. All of the marina owners and bayou owners were led to believe that the first part of the meeting with the senator and all the other officials that were going to be there by phone were going to discuss this charter boat issue first, and then before the meeting started, it got switched so that those people didn't have to take up this issue of the charter boats and took on a lighter issue because nothing ever happened with the bayou dredging. So we're going to continue now. We're going to pick right up, right where we left off, onto the second paragraph of this page 1.
I thought what I could do is frame this in a little bit. We've had some conversations with the marina owners as Jason is a point guy on this stuff over the months. And basically, when you step back from this, and what I'm trying to do is to kind of talk about roles here for a minute. The waterway program is set up, as probably you know, and funded by voter registrations and gas tax that comes in for the purposes of promoting recreational boating in the state of Michigan. We maintain what's harbors of refuge around the Great Lakes, and we have grant and aid harbors that we work with. Ludington is an example of that. We also have this Harbor Hill development, which is different. That was developed under an old program called the Harbor Development Fund. And the Harbor Development was a program at one time to stimulate the building of harbors in the state, where it was kind of a public-private partnership where the state helped acquire land and helped get them started, and then the private operator would take over and run the marina. This is Harbor Hill is not the same.
Harbor View.
Harbor View, excuse me. Sorry. Harbor Hill is another. We have a Harbor Hill.
We know you're not about that.
Yeah. But anyway, that is a separate thing. It's not the same as the municipal marina. Now, you may like that, you may not like that, but that was what it is. We do not do that anymore. We don't have all the money now goes into waterways, and the harbor development program is really defunct. But that's an example of one that was built. So that's it. Now, one of the things that we do is, as I say, in a partner, the local municipality, in this case Ludington, runs the marina. For whatever reason, back in the day, they chose to build the marina here for public purposes. And we get that. Obviously, there's private marinas that have developed and evolved over the years, and maybe many of them were here perhaps before the municipal marina. Now, one of the elements that what we try to do is to provide in the harbors of refuge, one of our first goals is to provide harborage during storms and to provide transient boat slips where people can come in and stay and leave.
On July 18, 2013, Ron Olson is speaking that Ludington has a right to commercial charter boats. Now let's take a look at a document that was typed 30 days before this meeting. See the DNR letterhead, inter-office communication. This is from the Michigan, to the Michigan State Waterways Commission, from Ron Olson, Chief Parks and Recreation Division. Subject, Ludington Municipal Marina Commercial Use. Now, Ron Olson is the director. Now, they may have a different word or description, but it's been chief director, director through the minutes of the waterways dating back to the beginning. So I'm just assuming this would be that same position, even under another title. So he's the director of the Waterways Commission. He does have that title of that. And according to the law, he's supposed to be paid for that. He's supposed to be compensated for that. Now, so in this communication to the Michigan State Waterways Commission, he's going to talk about what should happen about the commercial charter boats in Ludington. So let's just read this right out loud here. Typical contract agreements between communities and the Department of Natural Resources have conditions that determine the approval for commercial use at waterways developed facilities. This agreement was signed on March 20th, 1979 and states in paragraph 6. It is further agreed that commercial vessels of any type, included but not limited to charter fishing vessels, should not be permitted to regularly use any of the said facilities without first securing the approval in writing of both the city and the department. Now, This was signed on March 20, 1979, which would back up the people that marina owners that said when they sat down and had a meeting that they were promised that there wouldn't be any charter boats in those marinas. Well, this is right. It's right in the agreement. They knew in 1979 there couldn't be any. Now let's just continue on here. Past requests for commercial use have been reviewed by the department and commission on a case-by-case basis. Consideration is given on the need and type of use as it relates to the facilities, as well as impacts to local private marina owners. So we hear about how the two parties have to come together and make an agreement which would force legislation to change the law. And then the next thing we see is there's already been past considerations, and we even will be showing that as early as 1980 that charter boats were being let in this municipal marina. So the city's so-called permit that was given to them, or variance that was given to them by the Waterways Commission, who's advisory only, then skips the time frame of what that was supposed to be taken back for review, and then finds out that Leadington approved the use of 12 slips for charter boats on their own. So the department says, well, looks like we need to make a change. And this is, remember, this is 30 days before the meeting. On page 2 of the memorandum to the Waterways Commission, Ron Olson gives his opinion that commercial use at the Leadington Municipal Marina should no longer be allowed after 2013. Now, this gave the time for the city to prepare for this 8 or 9 fishing boats, charter boats, maybe not the fishing boats, to find a new place. And there's plenty of dock space or moorage within the private sector, which we heard about public purpose. And part of what we're going to hear and see in the next edition is going to be a Supreme Court ruling about public purpose. There's a couple of them. I believe that's why Ron Olson addressed it, as if to say, it doesn't matter. It's just there. We did it anyway. Coming next edition of Transparency, as we leave you here to wonder, what is the waterways condition? You're going to see the Michigan Harbors Guide. You're going to see how the finances was worked for the waterways program, the Michigan State Waterways program, the Waterways Fund, the fund. You're also going to see a page from the original first meeting of the Waterways Commission in 1947. There's some interesting information there on the harbors of refuge. And then we're going to go through the booklet that I showed you at what we're going to be looking at. Here is the east coast of Michigan with the harbors. And you'll be seeing that. You'll be seeing the west coast. And you can take a look at the key down there, the harbors of refuge, and take a look that there's only a couple on there. However, the goal was to have a marina within 15 miles, and they haven't quite accomplished that. We're going to show you that from this guide too. This is available on the DNR website. Just Google Harbors Guide, DNR, Michigan, and you'll get all kinds of hits. Take a look at this. It's a couple hundred pages, I think 214 pages. So take a look. Hope you can review this and see the faults. And until next time, this is Transparency. This is Jefferson Henry saying goodbye.